Welcome to the Ho-Ho Show.
Rated the #1 most listened to podcast on Pluto. So join us now as we discuss news, politics, current events, and so much more. So clear the airways and strap in as we
defend the Constitution, because freedom matters.
Broadcasting from the Park Studio. Welcome to the Ho-Ho Show, and as always, I'm your host, Ho-Ho. So how y'all's doing? I hope you're doing good. I really do. So today, I seen an article, and I got to talk about it. You know, I'm actually home today. I will be taking off first thing in the morning, heading up to over to New York. You know, and it's going to be good times, absolutely. But I'm not going to be back till Friday. And seeing this article, I just, I had to go into it. I had to talk about it because, there's a lot of things. It's like, holy crap, are you kidding me type of a thing, And so far, this article that I've read is, well, it's absolutely true so far, which isn't, or at least shouldn't be surprising because it's an article from the Daily Signal. Let's go ahead and go into that right now. Headline: Fact check, Kamala Harris campaign platform makes promises based on false assumptions. Of course it does. Headline goes in to say the Vice President Kamala Harris, Democrats' nominee for president, finally released her policy platform Monday, a little over 24 hours before her first debate with former President Donald Trump. It took her this freaking long to release her platform. Isn't that sad? Isn't that sad? I mean, I think it's sad, But, I mean, let's think about this for a second, because it's not like we don't know what she's all about. I mean, she's a Democrat, and even though she is vice president, we know her stance on a lot of things because, she was a candidate back in, 2020, where she didn't even get 1% of the Democrats' vote. And she was out very early during the campaign. But, let's remember, she's a Democrat. So, I mean, we know where she stands. And it's not like she was a bipartisan, well, not bipartisan, like an innocent observer during the Biden-Harris administration. She not innocent whatsoever. Her hands were in things like the border. But anyway, let's continue with the article. The Harris platform makes various claims about the root causes of issues faced by America and the way Harris plans to address those issues. The claims underlying her policy promises are false, however. Here's a look at what the Harris campaign released under the title, A New Way Forward. Isn't that just a nice name? Isn't that just precious? That's precious. Let's see. Yep. So the first one, Harris vows to secure border after 4 years of open borders. You see, well, this actually covers what I'm about to say. So let's just go ahead and get into it. Continue with it. Harris's policy platform says that if elected, she will secure our border and fix our broken immigration system. The Biden-Harris administration, however, abruptly shifted the nation's border policies on day one, enabling a massive influx of illegal immigrants since 2021. The platform focuses on the bipartisan border bill that failed to pass the House of Representatives in 2023 and suggests the legislation would solve illegal immigration. The platform blames Trump for killing the bipartisan border bill, although out of office and thereby failing to solve the border crisis. The platform states that Harris would sign the legislation, suggesting that nothing more is needed to solve the underlying issues. Congressional Republicans, however, said that the border bill was political posturing and not a true effort to secure the border. The bill spends $20 billion to not secure the border, but to more efficiently encounter, process, and disperse illegal migrants, said by Senator Ron Johnson, Republican of Wisconsin. Harris arguably shares responsibility for the border crisis with President Joe Biden, who tasked her in March of 2021 with solving the root causes of illegal immigration from 3 Central American nations. That's when both supporters and critics began referring to Harris as Biden's border czar. And everything in there is absolutely true. She did nothing to secure the border. The things that President Trump was doing whenever he was in office were working. The lowest encounters, not as many people, and people knew, that are south of the border, knew that the border was closed. So, I mean, we didn't have this huge influx. And on day one of him taking office, and really even before, actually on day one after we knew that Joe Biden was going to be coming into the White House, that's whenever things really started to go. That's whenever people started to flock this way. Start heading north. Head north, young man. Biden nor Harris can run away from this. They really can't. Because, like the article says, on day one, they opened the border up. Those that are south of the border knew that the border was getting opened up, and they started flocking this direction as soon as they heard that Joe Biden was going to be president. And Harris, being part of that, part of the presidency, part of the administration, became border czar, and she was the one that was tasked with fixing the problem. And again, they throw this, they try to throw President Trump under the bus by saying that, he's the one that killed the bipartisan border bill. It wasn't a border bill that was designed to fix the crisis at the border. Like the article said, it was nothing more than a bill spending $20 billion to more efficiently encounter, process, and disperse illegal migrants. It wasn't meant to secure the border. It wasn't meant to stop people from coming up. And really, I mean, it's even worse than that. I mean, it really is. It's worse than that. So much worse than that. Because this bill, it says that, they are going to allow so many people to cross the border. It was, in essence, legalizing a certain number of migrants across the border. That's what it was doing. It's like, we're not going to stop the influx until it reaches a certain number. And there were things that was put in that bill that basically said that the only people that it would count or put towards the ledger of, this is how many we're counting, was people that were specifically from Mexico. It wasn't doing anything to stop people coming over from China, from Honduras, from El Salvador. It wasn't stopping anybody coming from any other country other than Mexico, and that was it. That was the only people that was being counted as being put on the tally for we'll stop after this. So, the border bill was even worse than what they're saying in this article. Let's go ahead and continue. Harris says Equality Act will protect civil rights and freedoms. Harris now promises to protect civil rights and freedoms by passing the Equality Act to enshrine anti-discrimination protections for the LGBTQI plus Americans in healthcare, housing, education, and more into law. But critics say the Equality Act would undermine women's civil rights in order to help a minority of men who claim to be women. The bill would add sexual orientation and gender identity as protected classes in the 1964 Civil Rights Act. It would force schools and other programs to allow biological males who identify as females to compete against girls and women in sports and use private female facilities such as bathrooms and locker rooms. And I got to tell you, ladies and gents, I am completely against that type of thing. Okay? One of the things that those on the right, conservatives, Republicans, libertarians, one of the things that we were screaming about with this whole, LGBTQ stuff with just letting men into women's locker rooms and women's bathrooms was, hey, there's going to come a time whenever somebody whom isn't doing this for pure reasons, that isn't doing this for legitimate reasons, somebody whom actually believes that as a man they are trapped, or as a man, they are truly a woman trapped in a man's body. We knew from day one that there would come a time whenever perverts, sexual deviants, would use this as an excuse to be perverts. And there would come a time whenever there would be a problem with sexual harassment and things of that nature. And those on the left were like, no. That type of stuff isn't going to happen. We don't have to worry about that. I mean, you guys are just being ridiculous. You guys are being fear mongers because, you have a problem with the LGBTQ plus community. Here's the thing. Now, I can't speak for the rest of conservatives and libertarians and, Republicans whom truly are on the right, not the rhino Republicans. Screw them because they're truly Democrats. I ain't got a problem with the LGBTQ community, with the rainbow community, as I like to call them. And I don't care if that hurts your feelings. I learned a long time ago what a woman is, what a man is. That there are differences between the sexes. I say that, and I don't care what you think about it. It's true. There are differences between the sexes. And you have sex and you have gender. One of them is a scientific term. The other is more of a legal term. But they both mean the same thing. And even before I watched Kindergarten Cop, I knew that boys had a penis and girls had a vagina. It's pretty simple, isn't it? Men have an XY chromosome makeup and women have an XX chromosome makeup. That's science. It's factual. There's no getting around it. And outside of a very, very, very minute and small percentage of people in the world, those facts hold true. Now, back in my day, you had gays, you had straight, you had bisexual, you had tomboys, you had cross-dressers and, the like. And, they were what they were, but they were still men or women who were bi, straight, or otherwise. We didn't care. Our problem doesn't come with people having their own sexuality or preferences of whom they may want to be with. Our problem comes in the whole aspect of don't include me in with your delusion of you being a man and claiming to be a woman. I love the whole, the video that I've seen, the guy that kind of looks like Hulk Hogan. The skullet going on, and he's yelling at the person whom was the guy that was working the register, and he's like, "It's ma'am," and it's like, "No, it's sir," because you look like a hot mess, and if I'm confused at what you are, or at least you're doing a very horrible job of portraying yourself as a woman, that's a you problem. That's not a me problem. That's a you problem. You're a sir. It's obvious you're a sir. if I'm not going to address you as ma'am, then that means that you're doing a really bad job of your presentation. If you're going to be mad at me, maybe you should be mad at yourself. Maybe you should do a better job with your presentation to where I'm not confused. But who's the person that's really confused? Did the person care whether or not the person was gay? Because probably they were, and no, I'm sure that person didn't. But the point remains, the sexual deviancy that we talked about earlier, yeah, that's kind of a thing. Yeah, that happens. More so than they would like you to believe. It happens in schools. It happens in sports. It happens all over the place. And the left doesn't let these stories out. They hide them. They bury them. They cover them up. They threaten those whom are the victims with slander, with all kinds of things. They threaten them because they do not want this information out because, well, it looks bad on the LGBT, the rainbow community. It looks bad on the rainbow community. And they say that, oh, well, you know, we don't want this person to be representatives of the entire rainbow community. They don't want that. So that's why they squash the story. But in the meantime, is what happens is people whom are not somebody who feels as though they are a woman trapped in a man's body or vice versa, you know, it's deviants are being allowed into our bathrooms, not our bathrooms, but, you know, in women's bathrooms and girls' bathrooms. And that type of thing is unacceptable. And my question is, you know, one, it's to the women. Why are you okay with this? You know, because the 1964 Civil Rights Act was to protect women. It was to level the playing field for women. It was to ensure that women, whom are biologically different from men, because if they're not, then there doesn't need to be a woman's division. The fact that there is women's sports is pretty clear that there is a difference, a biological difference between the sexes. If there wasn't, there wouldn't be any need to protect women in sports like what happened in the 1964 Civil Rights Act. I mean, it's pretty freaking clear, isn't it? You would think. As clear as the nose on my face or the package in my pants. It's pretty stinking clear. Night, little buddy. Anyway, I mean, it's pretty stinking clear. I don't care about someone's sexuality. It doesn't mean anything to me. I don't care. What I care about is protecting those whom need protecting. Women, children. They're being abused, and I'm not okay with it. And I'm sure you're not either. But that's the unintended consequence of what they have been doing. And they're trying to paint us in such a light as to make us believe that there's something wrong with us. Okay, moving on. I think you get my point. Headline. Continuing on with the next point. Harris blames inflation on price gouging, not government spending. That's weird. The article says that Harris's policy statements on inflation suggests, again, that price gouging, not government spending, is the central driver of rising prices. As president, she will direct her administration to crack down on anti-competitive practices that let big corporations jack up prices and undermine the competition that allows all businesses to thrive while keeping prices low for consumers, the campaign website states. However, as Heritage Foundation budget expert E.J. Antony pointed out, there is a far more obvious culprit: government spending. Antony, an economist, noted, one of the functions of money is that of a measuring tool. One of the functions of money is that of a measuring tool. Yeah, there we go. If the yardstick were to shrink from 36 inches down to just 30, it would take 120 of these shortened yardsticks to cover the distance of a football field, instead of 100. As the dollar has lost value, it takes more dollars to measure the value of the things we buy. If price gouging caused 40-year-old high inflation, Anthony asked, did businessmen magically become greedy when Biden and Harris took office? The answer to that question is no. They've always been greedy. I mean, come on. Business owners are, greedy. They're doing this to make money. Continuing. Were corporations never greedy in the 40 years leading up to Biden's inflationary expansion of government, he asked? Businesses haven't even passed all their higher costs onto consumers. If they're trying to be greedy, they're doing it all wrong. Harris's policy platform also tactically admits that it is impossible that price gouging is responsible for the increases in prices. The platform notes that her first ever federal ban on corporate price gouging on food and groceries would build on the anti-price gouging statuses already in place in 37 states. If bans on price gouging were the solution to inflation, wouldn't these bans have prevented the problem in those 37 states? The answer to that question is, of course it would have. But the truth is, it's not price gouging. That's not the problem. This economist is correct whenever he says that the problem isn't price gouging. It's not greedy businessmen. It is the spending of government. I mean, let's be honest, okay? The only thing that can truly cause inflation is government spending. Look at this time. Look at all the times in the past where there's been inflation. It's been because government has spent. And it has spent outside the economy itself. I mean, think about this. What happened during COVID? There were several things, but, in short, you had the government in mostly red districts, mostly red states. Blue districts and blue states, Democrats. They shut the economy down. They sent people home. And, I had an argument with somebody about this. It was the first COVID relief bill that they passed. Only 10% of the spending in that entire bill actually went to the people. The rest of the 90% of the spending in that bill went to projects that these various people had. It went to, this corporation or NGO. It went to that place. It went to the other place. It went to this business to help prop it up because the government chose and picked winners and losers just like the government always does. It protects their friends and to hell with everybody else. That's what the government does. And that's what the government did in this case. 90% of the spending went to pork. Pork belly spending, I think, is what the economists call it. But that's what it went to. It didn't go to you and me to help us because the government sent us home. It went to their friends. It went to their little pet projects. That's where it went. It didn't go to help relieve people that were struggling because the government forced them out of their jobs and sent them home. People that couldn't make their, now because they got sent home, couldn't make their car payment. Couldn't make their mortgage payment. And then they wrote this law and that law to help keep them in their home, to help do this, to help do that, to try to relieve the pain the whole entire time, just killing the economy. That's what the government did. They flooded the market with money that wasn't being produced by capitalism. And that's where the problem came. And the inflation happened because inflation has to happen. In order to balance what the government did by flooding the economy with money that didn't exist, inflation had to happen. It had to happen. Interest rates had to go up to help bring that money out of the economy, out of circulation. That's the only way. I mean, the high inflation is a byproduct of government spending, period. Because the government is the only entity that can flood the market with money. A business can't do that. I mean, a business isn't going to do that. I mean, it happens naturally. But the government is the only entity that can flood the market with currency. I mean, think about it. Does Walmart have the ability to just print money? No, they don't. Only the government has that ability. Only the Fed has the ability to actually do that. Prices on everything had to go up. You know, one of the best analogies I've heard in talking about inflation is an alcohol. I mean, of course, you know, it's an alcohol analogy. You know, if you put, you know, your favorite liquor, let's just say it's Captain Morgan Parrot Bay. That's your drink of choice. So you order a shot of that. Bam. That shot costs, let's say, $5. And that's going to give you a 1 ounce. We're just going to say that the shot is 1 ounce instead of a bigger or a double. Just 1 ounce. Okay. And you see, inflation is $5 for that one shot. Okay. Inflation is now you take that one shot, you pour it back into the bottle, and then you fill that fifth up with water to make up the difference. And now you have to spend, you know, and now whenever you pour that liquor out, are you getting one shot worth of drunk off of that one shot of liquor that now has been diluted by water, something that isn't liquor? No. Now you got to buy like freaking 20 of them in order to get the 1 ounce amount of drunk. That's inflation. That is what the Biden-Harris administration did to the American people by flooding the market with money that didn't get made organically through capitalism, the buying and spending and exchange of goods, the act of people going to work and earning a living. That is the stuff that drives the economy. That didn't happen. Instead, you had people going home, products that weren't being produced, and then money getting flooded into the economy whenever nobody's working, things aren't getting produced. So you had your supply and demand. You had the supply going down, the demand stayed the same or increased. Of course, things are going to become more expensive. Duh. Moving on. Harris promises crackdown on, oh, that's funny. Harris promises crackdown on Iran, though Biden-Harris admins lose sanctions, netted regime billions. They loosen sanctions. Anyway, the Harris platform talks a tough game on Iran, the world's top sponsor of radical Islamist terrorism. I can read, really, I can. A section on keeping America safe proclaims the Vice President Harris will never hesitate to take whatever action is necessary to protect U.S. forces and interests from Iran and Iran-backed terrorist groups. Tehran is the top financial sponsor of the terrorist group Hamas, which infamously slaughtered 1,139 Israelis, including women and children, on October 7th in southern Israel. Harris's new policy pronouncements overlooked the fact that the Biden-Harris administration loosened U.S. economic sanctions on Iran, netting the Islamist regime $71 billion more before October 7th than under Trump-Pence administration policies. If Harris would never hesitate to protect U.S. interests from Iran, did she object to the administration's move to loosen sanctions? Of course not. I mean, it amazes me how, even though Israel is our oldest ally in the Middle East, are we going to Iran to try to order them to stand down, to ceasefire? Or are we basically ordering Israel to stop? Why are we ordering Israel to stop? I mean, what happened whenever, besides the crap and the junk that went along with it, the Patriot Act and different crap like that, what happened after 9/11? We went after those that we felt were responsible. Were we going to take any lip from any other country that said, maybe y'all shouldn't do that? No. We did what we did. We did what we felt we had to do. Why do we expect anything less from Israel? Why aren't we supporting Israel and helping them out in any way, shape, or form that we can to help them eliminate the threat? Because that's what needs to happen. The threat needs to be eliminated. Is it? No. And instead of going after Iran, we instead are going after Israel. Instead of going after Hamas in the Gaza Strip, we're going after Israel and telling them that just settle down. Just do the ceasefire. Even though every single time that Israel agrees to a ceasefire, the ceasefire is always broken. And I would like you to remember, understand, and note that it's never Israel that breaks the ceasefire, that violates the ceasefire. It's never them. I heard somebody say once that, whenever you get smacked in the face, the person that does the smacking does not get to argue the rules of war. Yes, I can understand respond in kind, an equal and opposite reaction, sure. But those in the Gaza Strip did more than just smack Israel in the face when they killed all those people on October 7th. And when looking at the number of $71 billion that they got, it seems as though we are partly responsible as Americans for that slaughter on October 7th. Are we okay with this? Do we really need to see what else the Democrats are willing to do to help terrorists? Because that's what happened. And all that happened under the Biden-Harris regime. Every last bit of it. Moving on. Harris repeats widely debunked claim that Trump campaign created Project 2025. Oh, let's read this one. The Harris policy platform includes several tabs contrasting the vice president's position with what it calls Trump's Project 2025 agenda. Although Trump repeatedly has distanced himself from the Heritage Foundation-led presidential transition project. In fact, the campaign official for Harris already has acknowledged that the vice president has deliberately misled voters about Project 2025. Harris and her campaign repeatedly have tried to link Project 2025 to Trump, despite the former president's pushback. In a particularly ironic claim, Harris and Trump would implement his Project 2025 agenda to consolidate power, bring the Department of Justice and the FBI under his direct control so he can give himself unchecked legal power, go after opponents, and rule as a as a dictator on day one. However, the Biden-Harris Justice Department targeted pro-lifers and other Americans with dissenting political and religious views, particularly after the Supreme Court's overturning of Roe v. Wade and abortion on demand in June 2022. For instance, a Michigan jury recently found 7 pro-life activists guilty of engaging in a conspiracy against rights and violations of the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act, or FACE Act, for peacefully protesting outside an abortion clinic. The charges against the pro-life activists were brought by Department of Justice Civil Rights Division, led by Attorney General Kristen Clarke. Launched 2 years ago by the Heritage Foundation, Project 2025 has grown to a coalition of 100 to 110 conservative organizations that developed a transition plan for the next presidential administration. The Heritage-led coalition considers its work to be nonpartisan and offers it to whoever occupies the White House in January of 2025. I find it amazing how the left repeatedly, time and time again, I mean, this is their playbook, is it not? Everything that they are doing that is bad, that would look bad under the correct light, is something that they always blame Republicans of doing. It's what they always blame the right of doing, always what they blame libertarians of doing. They are afraid that we would go after political adversaries. Oh, what? Like the Democrats have done? The lawfare against Trump? They're saying that, they're afraid that we would use, the lawfare and the Department of Justice and imprison wrongfully them. One, wait, you mean like the January 6th people that are still in prison 3.5 years after the fact, that have yet to see their day in court? I mean, let's forget about due process, right? Let's forget about the Constitution. Does it really take this long? They always accuse us of doing what they themselves are doing, and they claim that they're afraid that we would do that to them. But here's the problem, though, because it's worse than that. It really is. It is way worse than that. Because you see, we wouldn't just go after them and well, okay, let's rewind a second. The things against, well, okay, there was a guy, January 6th, that wasn't even there, wasn't present at the Capitol, wasn't there at all, was completely in a different state. None of his tweets, none of his DMs, none of his emails, nothing that they took even said that he was promoting violence. Nothing. Not one single word, not one sentence of him promoting violence. Again, he wasn't even there on January 6th at the Capitol. He was not there. He was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Why? The prosecution even admitted that he did absolutely nothing wrong. But they put him in jail anyway. Why? Because he was part of an organization that had the audacity to speak out against Biden and Democrats and the left since the 20 years. for doing nothing. The prosecution admitted that he did nothing wrong, but they still sentenced him for 20 years. A political prisoner. I mean, that's what he is, isn't he? A political prisoner? Yeah, I think so. The left is notorious for blaming us for the things that they are doing. They accuse Trump of being a dictator, claiming that they are afraid that he would be that he would prosecute them. And they made up a bunch of phony charges that are ridiculous. And they had to go out and publicly tell a lot of other people that has a lot of money of, hey, you know, don't worry about our treatment of Donald Trump. We're not going to do that to you. This whole thing is political. Don't run away and take your money elsewhere. We still want you to do business here. I mean, it's sad that they had to do that, isn't it? But the difference is where the left has to make up shit in order to prosecute the right doesn't have to make up anything. Because what the left has done is unconstitutional. What the left has done is illegal. They should be tried. If they are, they would be found guilty, and they should be prosecuted for their crimes. The left has to make up shit on the right. But why the left is so terrified? No, why the left is so terrified is that they know that if Donald Trump actually does what they fear he is going to do, a lot of them are going to prison. Because where they've made shit up on, we don't have to. Because they've screwed up and they know it. It really is that simple. So I'm going to leave you with this. Harris is running scared of her actual platform. In effect, that's what's going on. Because there's nothing good about their platform. There's nothing good about the Democrat platform whatsoever. What is Harris going to run on? The economy? The economy is crap. And she's part of the reason as to why, as being part of the Biden-Harris administration. What is she going to run on? The border? I mean, the illegal aliens is part of the reason as to why the economy is crap. So what is she going to do? Run on her treatment? Run on her record? Really? Her record is crap. What she has done is nothing. They have nothing to stand on. They have nothing that they could truly promote as part of anything that they've done. I mean, really, what, dude, really? I mean, holy crap. It's their platform is ridiculous. I mean, you guys, read this article. I'll have it saved somewhere. I'll post it on social media. I'll put it on X. I'll put it on Facebook. I'll put it out there on Truth Social. I'll put it out there. This way, y'all can read it because I want you to read this. I really do. I want you to read this. Anyway, that's all I got for y'all today. That is it. Y'all have yourself a great one, and I will see you in the next one. This has been The Ho Ho Show. For more information, you can head to thehohoshow.com. And for the merchandise store, you can head on over to stinkpickle.com. That is stinkpickle.com. Until next time.